Hi, BrenTech here, where tech is made simple. So if you've been viewing this channel for quite some time, you will have heard me talk about security updates for web browsers and double checking because of this that your browser is up to date to patch and address zero-day exploits or exploits that have already been exploited in the wild. Now in regards to this, just a quick information video if you would be interested, that recently Google posted a summary of zero-day exploits in the wild that took place in 2022 last year. And this report was posted on their official Google security blog last week. I think it was around about late last week. And 0 days, just to do a quick recap, are exploits that are in the wild. So that means they are out there and they are current and they are happening. So that's more or less what a 0-day exploit means. And because of this, and in this blog post, Google uses the blog post to highlight trends and also progress made regarding zero-day exploits between 2022 and present day. Now, I'll leave the whole post from their security blog in the description because it's quite in-depth. But I thought just for the purpose of this video, which is going to be an information video, so if you do want to stick around, just to go through this as quickly as possible, just to keep you updated and in the loop regarding, as Google is calling it, the ups and downs of 0 days, a year of review of 0 days exploited in the wild in 2022. Now, this is Google's 4th annual year in review of 0 days exploited in the wild. And the first was they reviewed in 2019, then 2020, 2021, and now this is their mid-year 2022 review. And they say that the goal of this report is not to detail each individual exploit, but instead to analyze the exploits from the year as a whole, looking for trends, gaps, lessons learned, and successes. Now, basically, their summary of this whole report, just to cut to the chase, is Google says 41 in the wild 0 days were detected and disclosed in 2022, the second most ever recorded since they began tracking in mid-2014. But down from the 69 detected in 2021. So there was a bit of a decrease in 0 days from 2021 to 2022. And because of this, though, Google says, although a 40% drop might seem like a clear-cut win for improving security, the reality is more complicated. Some of their key takeaways from 2022 include, and because of the drop might seem like a clear-cut win, they have listed a couple of takeaways, which are 3 important points just to highlight for the purpose of this video. Google says across the Android ecosystem, there were multiple cases where patches were not available to users for a significant time. Now, as I said about 0 days, 0 days are currently exploits that are happening and out there. So when patches aren't available for a significant time, this could pose a problem. So Google says attackers didn't need 0-day exploits and instead were able to use end days that functioned as 0 days. So that's the first key point. The second is zero-click exploits and new browser mitigations drive down browser 0 days, where Google says all major browsers also implemented new defenses that make exploiting a vulnerability more difficult and could have influenced attackers moving to other attack surfaces. So as I always say regarding that second point, which is an important point, that's why I always say to you guys, double check that your browser is up to date. Even though the browsers do update automatically in the background, in most cases, if you do use the browser on a regular basis, and especially when we do deal with 0 days exploits that are in the wild, it's always good to double check your browser's up to date because it will patch your browser sooner than later, and it takes a couple of seconds, and as I've mentioned, is a worthwhile process at the end of the day. And then the 3 key takeaway, Google says over 40% of the 0 days discovered were variants of previously reported vulnerabilities. And as I've also mentioned on this channel, a lot of these common exploits, especially in the Chrome web browsers, are common exploits like use after free, V8 JavaScript engine problems and flaws. So that's an important point where they say that over 40% of those 0 days were variants of previously reported vulnerabilities. And Google concludes those 3 points by saying 17 out of the 41 in the wild 0 days from 2022 are variants of previously reported vulnerabilities. And that's interesting. And nonetheless, those were the 3 key takeaways. And basically, to sum this all up, Google says that based on their analysis of 2022 0 days, they hope to see the continued focus in the following areas across the industry. And once again, there are 3 points. The first is more comprehensive and timely patching to address the use of variants and end days as 0 days. More platforms to make whole classes of vulnerabilities less exploitable. And then the third point for the purpose of today's video, continued growth of transparency and collaboration between vendors and security defenders to share technical details and work together to detect exploit chains that cross multiple products. That's quite a mouthful. That's their key takeaways from this post of theirs and this research they've done, which, by the way, as mentioned, I'll leave down below. But at the end of the day, when you are dealing with your web browsers, as I always say, and a quick recap, especially when we're dealing with exploits in the wild, just double check that your web browser is up to date, because it is a worthwhile process at the end of the day, because your browser is your first line of defense. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.